I'm honoured to introduce the first evening talk of Surrey Islamic Society's Invitation to Think Week. This week is a student-led initiative set out to engage with the wider community and promote free thinking and rational thought. Throughout the week, we'll have daily exhibitions, lunchtime workshops, and inspiring evening talks. We aim to share the Islamic heritage from various aspects of life, including art, spirituality, love, right through to economics, science, and sociology. Now, tonight's lecture is Give Your Misconceptions a Shaykh. In today's turbulent world, Islam is often on the front page, mostly for the wrong reasons. However, as students, we believe that with an increasing number of Muslims speaking out against this falsehood, the true and peaceful nature of Islam is becoming more evident. Muslims have been, and still are, standing up against terrorism, against the persecution and killing of innocent people, and against those who perpetrate such injustice in the name of any faith. Tonight's speaker is Shaykh Ibrahim Mogra, who's perhaps one of Britain's best-known imams and appears frequently on a variety of popular media outlets. His role at First Ethical revolves around delivering lectures on behalf of the charity at events hosted by our various partners, as well as representing First Ethical at social functions and galas. A graduate of Darul Ulum Institute of High Islamic Education, Holcomb, Ibrahim went on to study at Al-Azhar University, Cairo, and studied with a licentiate degree in 1992, followed by a master's degree from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London, in 1998. He continues to serve as a specialist advisor on Muslim affairs to many media outlets, including the BBC, Sky News, ITN, and a number of private television and radio companies, as well as various newspapers, including The Times, Independent, Guardian, Financial Times, The Economist, Herald Tribune, and Washington Times. Please join me in giving Shaykh Ibrahim Mogra a warm welcome for attending tonight. We will commence our week with a recitation from the Quran. For those of you who don't know, the Quran is the final testament for the Muslims, which is preserved in the Arabic language, and tonight we will recite from the Arabic exactly how it was revealed 1400 years ago. We will then give the English translation, and then we will begin with tonight's event. And we aim to have a Q&A afterwards where we can really engage with every single one of you and see if there's any questions which you may have about the Islamic faith. So without further much ado, if we could please allow Muhammad Asaka to give the Quran recitation. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ولقد وصينا الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم وإياكم أن اتقوا الله وإن تكفروا فإن لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكان الله غنيا حميدا ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا إن يشأ يذهبكم أيها الناس ويأتي بآخرين وكان الله على ذلك قديرا من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة وكان الله سميعا بصيرا يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يك غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا يا أيها الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله والكتاب الذي نزل على رسوله والكتاب الذي أنزل من قبل ومن يكفر بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا صدق الله العظيم.
And to Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth. And verily, we have recommended to the people of the scripture before you and to you that you fear Allah and keep your duty to Him. But if you disbelieve, then to Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth. And Allah is ever rich, worthy of all praise. And to Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth. And Allah is ever all sufficient as disposer of affairs. If He wills, He can take you away, O people, and bring others. And Allah is ever all potent over that. Whoever desires a reward in this life of the world, then with Allah is the reward of this worldly life and of the hereafter. And Allah is ever all all seer. O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even though it be against yourselves, or your parents, or your kin, be he rich or poor. Allah is a better protector to both. So follow not the lusts, lest you avoid justice. And if you distort your witness or refuse to give it, verily, Allah is ever well acquainted with what you do. O you who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and the book which He has sent down to His Messenger, and the scriptures which He has sent down to those before. And whosoever disbelieves in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last day, then indeed he has strayed far away.
Without further much ado, if we could please give a warm welcome to Shaykh Ibrahim Mogra.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillah wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa sayyidil anbiya. I begin in God's name, the most kind, the most merciful. I begin in God's name and send greetings and salutations on His messenger and all His prophets and messengers. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you all. I'd like to begin by expressing my thanks to the Islamic Student Society here for inviting me to share some thoughts with you, to hear from you, and giving me this opportunity to learn together with you this evening. I'm also delighted to see that we have been joined by friends who are not Muslim, and it always gives me tremendous hope and encouragement that if we continue in this manner of engagement, interaction, our future as neighbors in this country can be a very peaceful, very beautiful, and very enjoyable one. In light of the fact that we are joined by a number of non-Muslim friends, I'm going to share with you, assuming that our friends have not had much exposure to Islam, and perhaps their knowledge about Islam might be an introductory level, and forgive me if that is not the case, I hope to share with you some basic introductions to Islam and explore some of the issues that create some anxiety, perhaps some difficulty for our non-Muslim friends and neighbors. In the hope that by the time we go through this part of this session, we will have introduced ourselves or given ourselves a chance to be introduced to Islam, and perhaps some of our questions will be answered in the process. I'd like to focus my talk on two aspects in the lives of not just Muslims, but in the life of all believers. One dimension is the faith dimension, and one is the culture dimension. There are many things that people of faith do that are teachings of faith, and there are many things that people of faith do that have no connection directly with faith but are cultural. Indeed, people who have no faith, who have many cultural things that they do which help them to create identities about themselves. If we explore firstly faith, what is faith? Faith means so many different things to so many different people. A father or a mother might say to their son or daughter, I have faith in you, as a way of encouragement for that young person. We might visit an ill person, somebody who's stressed and in difficulty. We say to them, keep faith. Everything will be well. All will be well. And I remember many years ago when Leicester City Football Club were hoping to come into the Premiership and we were hoping to get to the playoffs. We were carrying banners at almost every City game which said, keep the faith. So different contexts and different circumstances carry a different meaning about faith. For a Muslim, faith really is believing in God. And everything that comes with that belief in God. An unseen master, an unseen creator, unimaginable, one that is not given any shape or form, to declare faith that there is none worthy of worship but this supreme creator. When we think of belief in God in Islam, the Quran invites us to think of God as God being the light of the heavens and the earth. And we do not give God any shape or form. We do not describe him in any anthropomorphic way. But rather, when, for instance, God says that I see you and I hear you, we believe he sees us and hears us not with eyes and ears like yours and mine, but he has his own special way of seeing and hearing us. When a Muslim declares faith in God, the Muslim also acknowledges his or her position as a slave and a servant of God. The Muslim then knows that he and she, you don't want to just swallow it, do you? Apologies for that. So when a Muslim acknowledges God Almighty as the Master, then they recognize that they owe gratitude to God for all his mercy towards human beings. Chapter 16, Surah An-Nahl, verses 3 to 8, chapter the Beast tells us about a number of these very special blessings that God has given to humanity. It says, he has created the heavens and the earth in a proper way. He has created the human being from a sperm and egg, and He created cattle for you, so that you may have warm clothing and numerous benefits, and that you may eat. And there is beauty in them for you when you bring them home in the evening, and as you lead them to pasture in the morning. And they carry your loads to places where you would have not reached except with tremendous difficulty. Indeed, your Lord is full of kindness and is most merciful, and He has created for you horses, mules, and donkeys, for you to ride and as an adornment. And He creates other things of which you have no knowledge. Clearly, this is a picture of life before the advent of mechanization and industrialization of the world as we know today. But we could quite easily reflect on the other blessings that we enjoy today, our cars, trains, aeroplanes, and the like. And it is this faith and belief in this supreme, merciful God that will enable people to attain and receive His grace on the Day of Judgment. When a Muslim, or when a person rather, declares faith in God, as a Muslim, they would then be required to believe in a number of other beliefs. The first being a declaration in the belief in the existence of angels. That God has created angels out of light, a very special creation that is always in the service of God. The more better known angels are the likes of Gabriel, who used to visit the messengers and prophets, bringing revelation to them and help them in times of need. Mikael, the angel who is in charge of the climate and weather. Angels who accompany the human being, the noble scribes who record all that the human being does, and so many other different angels. The Muslims also then have to declare belief in scriptures, the books that God Almighty has revealed from time to time for the guidance of humanity. The better known ones, the Torah of Moses, the Psalms of David, the Gospels of Jesus, the Quran of Muhammad, and the scrolls of Abraham and others are also mentioned in the Quran and in other traditions. Peace be on all of God's messengers and prophets. Muslims also believe that although they have not seen many of these scriptures, perhaps they are not available to them today, nevertheless they still have to declare faith that God did reveal these scriptures for the guidance of humanity. Muslims also have to declare faith in messengers and prophets which God sent from time to time to show practically human beings how to find God and how to live their lives. Some of the more better known messengers and prophets in Islam are the very same messengers and prophets that are mentioned in the Bible and in the scriptures of Jews and Christians. The likes of Abraham, Noah, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be on them, regarded as the key 5 messengers and prophets of God Almighty. Along with them, many others have been mentioned in the Quran. Muslims also have to believe and declare faith in the last day. One day this life will come to an end, this whole universe will come to an end, and everything will cease to exist. After which there will be resurrection, we will be brought back to life to stand before God and answer for our actions. And finally, Muslims also believe in fate, in predetermination, that everything is ordained by God, everything happens with the will of God. And when Muslims declare this, it does not mean that Muslims believe that they are automated, pre-programmed machines who have no free will. On the contrary, we believe that we do have free will. God has given us the intellect with which we can choose between right and wrong, between good and bad, good and evil. And so, if for instance, a Muslim wants to cross a very busy road, give me a name of a very busy road here. M25, that is busy, yes, especially when I was coming down today. So People don't usually cross the motorway, but let's use that as an example. Somebody decides, a Muslim decides, well, I believe in fate, and everything is written down by God. Whatever God has written down will happen. So I'm going to just go across from one side of the motorway to the other side. And in the process, if it's flattened by a big lorry, that is not fate. That is asking for it. Because God has given you the intellect to be able to choose a safe moment when you should cross. Actually, you shouldn't even cross a motorway. So these are some of the beliefs that Muslims hold. And alongside with that, we also believe that just believing in these things is not sufficient. Belief without good works is insufficient. The Quran in many places talks about belief going hand in hand with good works. We find in Surah Al-Asr, chapter 103, chapter the time, by the token of time, God declares, indeed the human being is in loss, except those who have faith and do good works, and recommend each other to the truth, and recommend each other to patience. The Quran also encourages Muslims to compete with each other in carrying out good works and good deeds. Amongst the many good works that a Muslim may carry out are prayer 5 times a day, fasting in the month of Ramadan, giving of charity, performance of the pilgrimage, recitation of the Quran, chanting of God's name, and so many other things. In that list also is helping the poor and the needy, to care for the sick and the elderly, to look after the neighbors, and so many other good things that we would do as human beings. If we explore what the Quran requires of people of faith, that if you have declared faith, what does this faith require of you as Muslims? Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse 177 tells us that piety does not consist in turning your face in worship toward the east or the west. The truly pious are those who believe in God and the last day, in the angels, the scriptures, and the prophets, who give away some of their wealth, however much they cherish it, to their relatives, to orphans, the needy, to travelers and beggars, and to liberate those in bondage, slaves. Those who keep up the prayer, pay the prescribed alms in charity, who keep pledges and promises whenever they make them, who are steadfast in misfortune, adversity, and times of danger. They are the ones who are true, and it is they who are aware of God. There is a very interesting way in which scholars of Islam have categorized Islam into 5 different categories. Now I'll share those with you. The first 2 have got everything directly to do with God. Human beings do not come in that equation. The other 3 have got nothing directly to do with God, perhaps indirectly, yes, but otherwise they have everything to do with fellow human beings. Which leads me to the conclusion that in Islam, there is a lot more to do with human beings than to do with God. So let's explore that. The first is imaniyat, the belief aspects, which I have shared with you. So 20% of Islam is about belief as has been described. The second 20% is ibadat, the worship aspect, prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, reciting the Quran, and so many other forms of worship. The third is mu'amalat, our commercial dealings, our monetary and financial exchanges, earning a livelihood, having a job, buying and selling, trading, and all these things. These have everything to do with fellow human beings. The laws of Islam with regards to these are very, very strict. To avoid usury and interest, not to gamble, not to bet, to ensure that the quality of the products that you are selling is good, and that if there are any faults, you disclose those faults to the customer. If you have to weigh or measure anything that you are selling, to measure and weigh it correctly. To earn an honest, legal and lawful sustenance, and to have lawful earnings without cheating, without fraud, and also to try and be independent, to be able to stand on one's own feet, not to depend on others, not even on the welfare state, if at all possible. And we hear of a story in the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he saw a man begging, and he called him over and said, "You should not be begging. You should find a job. You should work and earn your daily bread through the sweat of your brow, through your own hard work." And he asked him if he had any possessions. And the man said he had some very simple things, perhaps some utensils, some pots and pans. And the Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, auctioned these off for him in order to generate some money for him. When that was done, he took the money and gave it to the beggar and said, "Now I want you to go and purchase an axe, go into the woods, collect firewood." And he did that, and within a short period of time, this person became self-sufficient. He was now able to support himself and his family. So Muslims are encouraged to work and not to become dependent on others or on the state. The fourth part is mu'asharat, social interaction, social engagements, how we engage with people around us, our family, our neighbors, our locality, and society at large. Fellow students, co-workers, people of other religions, people of no religion. Not only that, but how we interact with God's other creation, with animals and plants. The Quran very clearly reminds us of our huge responsibility of stewardship as khulafa, as the deputies of God, as stewards that God has placed on this planet to care for His other creation. We have tremendous responsibility towards all of God's creation. So how we live our lives with fellow human beings, going down all the way to the simplest of things, to say good morning and hello to people that we come across, to smile at someone, to bring joy to their lives, to their heart, to inculcate a genuine affection for fellow human beings. These are fundamental requirements of Islam. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, told us, and let me share the Arabic for those of us who are familiar with this hadith tradition. وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَا تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا وَلَا تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَحَابُوا أَفَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ إِذَا فَعَلْتُمُوهُ تَحَابَبْتُمْ أَفْشُوا السَّلَامَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "By him in whose hand my life is, you shall not enter paradise until you believe. And you will not believe until you love one another. Shall I not show you something which, if you do, will help you to love one another? Spread salam between yourselves." Now, some of us as Muslims have understood this to mean the greeting of salam. That when we meet each other, we should say Assalamu alaikum, which is wonderful. Peace be with you. A beautiful greeting of peace to fellow human beings. But if we were to limit it to just that, it's a very narrow application of the message, the spirit of this tradition. It is not just the greeting that is required to be spread, but it is peace itself that needs to be spread all around us. So that wherever a Muslim person goes, man or woman, they bring peace to that place. They create a peaceful environment wherever they happen to be. And if we can do that, then we will see that we will be able to love one another, have respect for each other, and that love will help us to become true and proper believers, as a result of which we may receive God's grace and enter heaven. And this idea of respect for all is deeply entrenched in a number of verses in the Quran. Surah Al-Hujurat, which most of us are very familiar with, I'm sure, and is part of our frequent recitations. Chapter 49, verses 11 to 13 tell us, O you who believe, let not any men among you laugh at other men. It may be that those they are laughing at are better than them. Let not any women among you laugh at other women. It may be that they are better than you. And do not defame each other. And do not call each other by offensive nicknames. It is an evil to have a name of wickedness after one has believed. And indeed, those who do not give up are doing wrong. You can see even calling someone by an offensive name is forbidden in Islam. That we should use endearing words to call each other. If we are not calling them by their proper name, and we want to use another name to call them, and these should be respectable names with which we can call them and address them. The following verse tells us, O believers, avoid much of your suspicions. Indeed, some suspicions are sins. Do not spy on each other. Do not backbite one another. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his or her dead brother? You would hate it. In other words, likewise, we should hate backbiting. And fear God. Indeed, God is the one who is most forgiving and accepts repentance, most merciful. It carries on to tell us, O mankind, indeed we have created you from a male and a female, and made you into tribes and nations, that you may know one another, that you may interact with each other. Indeed, the most honorable of you with God is the one who is most righteous. Indeed, God is all-knowing, all-aware. Now, when we explore all these teachings, we find that the Quran is calling on Muslims to integrate into the societies in which they live. Not to keep themselves to themselves and isolate themselves, but to be part of the society. Because it is only then we will be able to interact with each other. It is only then we will be able to give respect and hopefully receive respect. If you look at the diversity that we see around us, we find in light of many verses of the Quran that this is God's plan and design. God wanted His creation to be diverse. And as I look around this auditorium, I see beautiful people of different colors, shapes, sizes, religions, cultures. It's beautiful. And if you all looked alike and you're all exactly the same, it would not look as beautiful as it looks now. So we find that diversity in God's creation is actually a demonstration of His great creative powers. Indeed, the Quran actually makes mention of this very concept, this very idea. In chapter 30, Surah Al-Rum, verse 22, the Quran tells us, and from amongst the signs of God's greatness is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the different languages that you speak, and your different colors. Indeed, in this there are signs for those who keep knowledge. Surah Hud, chapter 11, verse 118 tells us, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. If your Lord had so willed, He would have made all the people into one type, into one single community. But we see He did not do that. He has made us so different. Indeed, that would include the diversity of the religions that we see around us. The Quran does declare that the way chosen by God for humanity is Islam, declaration in God and in the other beliefs that I have shared before you. And indeed, this is the acceptable way to God Almighty. At the same time, we find the Quran also talks about the diversity of religions. In the readings that we heard earlier on, we are called to believe the scriptures that were revealed before the Quran. Surah Al-Hajj, chapter The Pilgrimage 22, verse 40, tells us about this diversity of religions. If God did not repel some people by means of others, that is, if He did not use some people to defend the oppressed and to stop the oppressor from carrying out injustices on other people, in other words, if people did not come to the defense of fellow human beings who were being attacked and who were being oppressed, if that had not been in place, what would have happened? If God did not repel some people by means of others, many monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques where God's name is invoked would have been destroyed. In the same verse, we find mention of monasteries, synagogues, churches, and mosques. In light of this, we as Muslims have a duty to live peacefully with the diversity which is around us. That does not prevent us as Muslims from sharing our faith with non-Muslims, from inviting non-Muslims to consider this as a way of life for themselves. There is a proper, constructive way of doing that through dialogue, mutual respect, and understanding. We find Surah Ash-Shura, chapter 42, verse 13 tells us, in matters of faith, God has laid down for you people the same commandment that He gave Noah, peace be on him, which we have revealed to you, Muhammad, peace be on him, and which we enjoined on Abraham and Moses and Jesus, peace be upon them all. Uphold the faith and do not divide into factions within it. That is one other aspect of Islam, the interaction that we should have with people around us. And finally, the fifth component, the last 20%, is akhlaqiyat. Character and conduct of the individual. As an individual, what kind of characteristics do I display in my life? So we find that transactions, social interactions, and personal character, these are everything to do with fellow human beings. 60% of Islam emphasizes the human dimension of relationships, and 40% is relationship with the Creator. There's good character and moral conduct. Can be learned in many different ways from many different sources. For the Muslims, we are encouraged to look up to Muhammad, peace be upon him. That indeed in him there is a perfect example for humanity. For those who hope to be with God and to be successful on the Day of Judgment, and those who wish to remember God often and frequently, then they should follow the example of Muhammad, peace be upon him. In many of our collections of traditions, what we refer to as hadith collections, traditions of Muhammad, peace be upon him, we find one very important collection known as the collection of Sahih al-Bukhari, the authentic collection of hadiths compiled by al-Bukhari. There's one narration in this collection which describes the character of a Muslim, or one of the characters of a Muslim. What should a Muslim be like? The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, describing a Muslim, said, a Muslim is that person from the harm of whose tongue and hands other people are safe. In other words, if people are not safe from the harm of my tongue and from the harm that I could cause with my hands, I'm not a Muslim. If you look at this tradition as it is recorded, and therefore, all this that we see around us, this violence that is being perpetrated by some Muslims, is a very un-Islamic characteristic. There is no room for this kind of behavior in Islam, in the teachings of Islam. Where such emphasis is put even on the harm of the tongue, you can imagine the harm of physical harm. I can see around the room, many of you are very young people, and maybe it's something that you don't do anymore, but when I was growing up, in the school playground, we used to sing a little song, I can call it maybe, or a little rhyme, especially when we were being bullied by others, by other children in the playground. We would say, maybe you can help me if you know it, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's what we used to sing. Maybe they do it now, I'm not sure. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Because if you hit someone with a stick, you break their arm. If you call them something bad, call them a bad name or something, they say it won't hurt me. But in Islam, it's quite the opposite. Where we have a saying in the Arabic language, which roughly translates as this, that the wounds, the physical wounds that are inflicted upon someone, there is a cure for it. Somebody injures your arm or hurts you somewhere, you go to the hospital, you get treatment, after a short while you're cured and you're better. But the injury that is caused by the tongue, there is no cure for it. That penetrates the heart. It is very hurtful and very painful. So when we hear of the atrocities that are committed by Muslims against people who have never harmed them, who've done nothing to them, innocent people, men, women and children, that is absolutely un-Islamic. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, once was asked a question. The question was, which Islam is the best? Which Islam is the best? The questioner was hoping to be given an answer of a description of Islam which could be recognized as the best. However, the answer was not that. The answer was the person from the harm of whose tongue and hands others are safe. That is the best Islam. And we have some beautiful examples in the life of Muhammad, peace be upon him, that give us Muslims many, many lessons that we can adopt and learn. On one occasion, the blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, was seated in his mosque. He was teaching his companions, they were learning from him. Suddenly a Bedouin walked out from outside. An uneducated person who didn't know much about religion and places of worship and so forth. He walked inside, went into one corner and began to urinate. When the Muslims saw this clearly, they were shocked. And they wanted to do something about it. They wanted to stop him. And as they were about to get up, the blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said, "Calm down. Stay in your places. Let him finish." And people couldn't understand that here you have a man who's desecrating the house of God, a place of worship, and the Messenger is telling us to leave him alone. After the man had finished, after the Bedouin had finished, the Messenger called him over in a very respectable and caring way. Called him over and sat him down and began to explain to him in a very simple way, simple and straightforward. He said, "This is a place of worship. Here we pray to God. It is not a toilet." Simple. He commanded his companions to fetch a few buckets of water and clean out the mess that this Bedouin had made. This Bedouin was just shocked at the way in which he was treated. He could not believe that having desecrated the house of God and having done something which is absolutely unacceptable, even then he is being treated with respect, with care, and he's not harmed at all. Instantly his heart was turned towards the teaching and learning that was happening there, and he wanted to learn about this man and this religion, and he joined the group of Muslims. Time has moved on, but let me share with you one other inspiring story, and I'm sharing this in the hope that we as Muslims can learn from these inspiring stories. When the blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, used to preach the oneness of God in the Meccan society, a society which was accustomed to having multiple deities and different gods for different things, he was not very popular. And he was called all sorts of names. He was called all sorts of things. And in particular, one woman made it her mission that every time the Messenger walked past her house, she would throw rubbish on him. And this carried on for some time, until one day, when the Messenger passed by her house, there was no rubbish. Now, if it was me, I've thought about this many times, I would have said, "Thank God, I don't have to shower again today and change my clothes." But not the Messenger. He became concerned about her. What's happened today? Is she unwell? Has something happened to her? So he knocked on the door. And the woman asked who was at the door, and he said, "It is I, Muhammad." And she began to tremble. And she thought, this is it now, he has come for his revenge. And he had to reassure her that he meant no harm. Reluctantly, the woman opened the door and let him in. Once inside, he said, "Mother, I do not wish to harm you. I just got concerned. Perhaps you are unwell, you have been hurt or something. I'm only asking after you to see if I can do something for you." And he won her over, just like that. This is the character that we as Muslims have to try and emulate and bring into our lives. To be caring, forgiving, compassionate people, even to those who harm us. It was in those very early days when he was preaching Islam that one woman decided to pack her bags and leave Mecca. So she had a few bags with her, and she began to leave Mecca, to move out of Mecca. She wouldn't have to listen to this, according to her, this madman who's preaching that there is only one God. Whereas her ancestors had worshipped hundreds of deities. She was spotted by someone. That person came over and said, Mother, you have a heavy load. Can I help you to carry your luggage? And she said, oh, that's very kind of you. I could do with some help. And so this person picked up her luggage and they began to walk to where she wanted to go. On the way, she struck a conversation, said, young man, you seem to be a very nice person, a very helpful person. Let me warn you. There is this madman in Mecca called Muhammad. He is preaching that there is only one God. Please don't listen to him. Don't fall for his trickery. He's a trickster, he's a fraud, he's a magician, he's mad. Just don't go anywhere near him. Otherwise he will take you away from the religion of your forefathers. And she had some other nasty things to say. When they reached the destination, the person who helped her put her bags down and asked if there was anything else he could do, and she said, no, everything is fine. Just one thing. Before you go, tell me your name so that I can pray for you to the gods for helping me. At that point, the person said, my name is Muhammad. And she couldn't believe it. She was shocked. It is you. My goodness, why didn't you say so? I've been saying so many nasty things about you, but you did not get angry. You did not react. Not one thing did you do. And I'm thinking, what would you and I have done? Just throw her bags and leave her in the middle of the desert? Maybe grab one of her bags and smack it up over her head? I don't know. But not Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he won her over. And there are so many other stories. We as Muslims have to learn those lessons of kindness and care for fellow human beings. It is our behavior, truly. It is your behavior and my behavior, which people around us use as a yardstick to measure Islam. Think about that. My actions and your actions, these are the yardsticks by which people measure Islam. And if we can live by these high moral values and this character, then the yardstick that people will use will be a fair yardstick to use to measure Islam. Coming back to this idea of safeguarding the tongue, for example. A Muslim must always use good, decent language. Not foul words, certainly not swear words and the like. The Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said that whosoever believes in God and in the last day, let them speak something good or else remain silent. If you've got nothing good to say, just remain silent. We should not get into the habit of arguing. Certainly discuss with people. It's good to discuss. It's good to dialogue. But the Quran has set rules and regulations about how we dialogue, how we talk to others, with respect, with wisdom, with good words. The Quran actually says that. To use good language. Not to argue, not to insult other people. Not to insult other people's religions. Not to insult the deities that they might be worshipping. The Quran is very explicit. The Arabic is la tasubbu. Do not swear. Do not ridicule. Do not offend other people by attacking or ridiculing the deities that they worship. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said that the most hated person in the eyes of God is the one who is most quarrelsome of the opponents. Sometimes we just want it our way. It's my way and no other way. We must learn how to listen to the other person and navigate that terrain and share the public space that everyone has an equal right to. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said, I guarantee a home in paradise for a person who gives up arguments and disputes even if he or she is right. That's where the challenge is. When you know you are right, and then to stop the argument, it takes a lot of determination and courage to do that. And he also said, I guarantee a home in the middle of paradise for a person who gives up lying even when joking. Never to lie. A Muslim, the Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said, a Muslim cannot be a liar. He even said he could be a coward, but not a liar. Something very interesting to ponder over. He said he could be a miserly person, but not a liar. Lying and being Muslim simply don't go together. And he went on to say, I guarantee a home in the highest part of paradise for the person who has a high standard of character. And this high standard of character requires us to be caring, especially for our neighbors. And in Islam, when we talk of neighbors, we don't talk of next door neighbors. We think neighborhood. The Quran talks about close neighbors, near neighbors, distant neighbors. All those are neighbors. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said that you cannot believe, you cannot be proper believers until you love for your brother and sister what you love for yourself. This is your brother and sister in humanity. I should love for every human being what I love for myself. And it follows that I should hate for them what I hate for myself. If I don't want something horrible to be done to me, I should not wish it for anybody. And it's very interesting when we talk about previous messengers and prophets and previous scriptures. The message of Jesus, peace be on him, was just that. Love your neighbor. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, said that he and she is not one of us whose neighbor is not safe from their harm. Helping fellow human beings. The blessed Messenger, peace be on him, said, indeed God helps his servant as long as that person is helping a fellow human being. And God himself tells us, the merciful one is kind to those who are kind to his creation. So therefore show kindness to his creation, and the one in the heavens will show kindness to you. I began by exploring some of the belief aspects of Islam, the worship, and then we went into the different categories of Islam. In a few minutes, let me just add to that a few other things before I hand over to the chair for your input. There are a number of misconceptions which have arisen, and largely, and it gives me no pleasure in admitting this, largely because of the behavior of Muslims themselves. We tend to be, some of us, in the habit of pointing a finger at others, but we forget to take stock of our own actions and our own behavior. Perhaps it is our behavior that makes people believe that we are like that. I began by talking about faith and culture. Much of culture, any culture, is good. A lot of culture is good, some of it is bad. Same thing for the cultures of Muslims. Muslims come from all corners of the world, and they bring with them all those cultures. All culture which is compatible with the moral values and ethical codes of Islam are Islamic. And any part of culture which is in conflict with Islam is un-Islamic. So let me share with you one very quick example. We've heard of honor killings. This is when a mother and father believe that they have been dishonored because their daughter, it's usually their daughters, or their son has married or is thinking of marrying someone that they do not approve of. Or they have actually gone and married someone that they do not approve of. They feel that they have been dishonored, and now in order to restore that honor, they have to kill their own daughter. There is nothing in Islam that allows this. That is pure and simple murder. That is not how you restore your honor and your dignity. That is un-Islamic. That has to be condemned and shunned. By the way, it's not just some Muslims who might be guilty of this crime. People of other religions also have been found to be guilty of this crime. Let us stay with the subject of women and daughters. There is this misunderstanding and misconception that in Islam, the woman is second to the man, or is a second-class citizen. If we pick up the Quran, we find quite the opposite. The Quran talks about men and women as equals. The Quran tells us that, O people, we have created you from a male and a female. The Quran talks about how women are like garments for the men, and men are like garments for the women. Husbands and wives. So just as we wear clothes, garments to look beautiful, I took out my robes today, especially for you guys, so that I can look nice and smart, presentable. I think Yusuf's got his robes out today. So we wear beautiful clothes to look beautiful, to beautify ourselves. Likewise, a man and a woman come together in marriage to bring beauty to each other. But we don't think of beauty just in the sense of outward beauty. The real beauty is of the inside. Not the skin-deep beauty, which may stay with us for a few years and then go. But the real beauty of the heart, of the mind. To be a beautiful person from the inside. Through marriage, this man and this woman will help each other to become more beautiful from the inside. Just as we wear clothes to help us from the elements, from cold, from heat, from rain, and so forth, the husband and wife will provide protection to each other. And just as we wear clothes to cover our modesty and our shame, the husband and wife will enable each other to fulfill their natural needs through a lawful, legal way which is pleasing to God. In Islam, a woman has every right to choose her husband. Parents cannot force their daughter to marry someone that she does not like or love. And she can say no, and she cannot be put under any duress or under any kind of pressure where she has to say yes. That is a culture which does not fit with Islam. It is unacceptable. The same is true for a boy. Parents cannot force their son to marry someone against his will. However, because there's a tremendous amount of respect for parents in the teachings of Islam, we have to be mindful of the advice that they give us. If we have chosen someone ourselves that we like to marry, and our parents point out certain things which ring alarm bells, then we should give it some serious thought. In a marriage, it is the husband who offers a gift to the bride. And this is a way of expressing gratitude and appreciation that she is now his wife to the exclusion of all. When it comes to matters of children and the raising of children, Islam encourages Muslims to have family, to have children, and to treat all children equally. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, once was delivering a sermon, and he said, I guarantee paradise for any father and mother, any parents who raise up their, I'm forgetting the number, their 3 or 4 daughters to be decent human beings, to be good Muslims. If you can raise up your daughters to be like that, I guarantee you paradise. A man sitting in the crowd who had just 2 daughters, he put his hand up and he said, Messenger of God, what about 2 daughters? And the messenger said, yes, and 2 daughters. If you raise up your daughters to be good human beings, decent and good Muslims, I guarantee you paradise. And one chap in the corner said, how about 1? Because he had just 1 daughter. And the messenger said, and 1 daughter. Now this whole exercise was what? It was to teach the Muslims to value your daughters. Just as you value your sons, you value your daughters. Now that society, Arabian society in those days, had no value for women. The Quran paints a very painful picture of how fathers would take their newly born baby daughters and bury them alive in the sands of the desert, because they regarded it as shameful to have a daughter. So the blessed Messenger, peace be on him, began to challenge those ideas, those notions, and began to promote the status of the woman in Islam. Not only that, but when it comes to property, that whatever a woman had as her own possessions, when she marries her husband, her possessions, her property remains her own. Her husband has no right over her property, and he has no access to her property unless she herself willingly shares something. So if I give you an example of my own self, when I married my wife, whatever was hers remains hers. On the other hand, when she became my wife, I now have to provide for her a house, clothing, food. The children come along, everything that the children need. And then you've got your wedding anniversary, you've got your birthday, you've got whatever else that comes with it, Valentine's Day and all the things, all the flowers and the dinners and all. I have to pay for all that. She doesn't have to spend a penny on me. So in a way, one could say that it's rather unfair in Islam. Women get away quite easy. But marriage is about love, it's about sharing, it's not about material possession. But I share this purely to demonstrate that the woman is truly valued in Islam. If Muslim husbands do not treat their women well, it is not because of Islam. It might be because of their culture, it might be because of themselves as individuals, that they fail to value the woman that they're supposed to care for and love. Again, this idea of culture. We find, because Muslims, as we talk about the UK, we come from all walks of life. I was not born in this country, I'm an immigrant. My parents are of Indian origin, so much of our culture is Indian. I remember growing up as a child and even into adulthood, my mother never called my father by his name. Never. She had other ways of addressing him, other affectionate ways of addressing him, but she never called him by name. Which is a very Indian thing to do. Whether you're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, if you're Indian, that's how you are with your husband. I guess it's true for some other cultures. Any indication? Any other places where this happens? Yes? In Pakistan as well. Perhaps some parts of the Middle East, other places. This is part of the culture. And I think it's beautiful. I think it is beautiful. I don't see anything wrong with that. Islam doesn't say you cannot call your husband by his name. It doesn't say that. But this is part of the culture of some Muslims. If I share with you my own story, you know, in the UK and in many of these countries, we have this idea, this practice of shortening people's names. Yeah? So Philip becomes Phil, John becomes maybe just Joe. So Ibrahim becomes, let me tell you, my wife, who has Indian parents, but she was born and bred in the UK. She's English born. She doesn't call me Ibrahim. Not because Islam says she can't call me Ibrahim. She calls me Ibs or Ibi. And the day she calls me Ibrahim, oh, I know I'm in trouble. The point I want to demonstrate is cultures change. And Islam is flexible with regards to that. Islam does not prevent you from adopting and adapting the cultures of the society in which you live in. If I look around this auditorium, and the Muslims, if I talk of the males, for example, some of you are wearing long robes, some of you are wearing shirts, trousers and all that. That is fine, that is acceptable. It does the job, it covers what you need to cover. So Islam takes a very flexible approach to accommodating cultures. So if you go to China, I visited China, you find that the Chinese culture is very, very evident amongst Chinese Muslims. Even their mosques have Chinese type roofs and all that. Very, very Chinese. This is how we should be as Muslims. We should be flexible, and whatever Islam says is forbidden, of course, remains forbidden. So, for example, when I go to watch Leicester City Football Club on some days, I would go with any non-Muslim friends and all that, cheer the team and all that. After the game, many of the non-Muslim friends will go to the pub to have a drink. That's where I stop. I don't go to the pub. They go to the pub, I go back home with my children. So the football culture, you can become part of it. I'm just using one example. But where Islam says you can't, we draw a line. And I think it's wonderful if we take from each other's cultures. We can enrich our own culture. I'll share with you one small example of food. Who knows what's the national dish of Britain?
Curry.
You need to update yourself.
Sausage and mash.
Sausage and mash.
Bacon and eggs.
Well, according to some surveys that were carried out, it is actually chicken tikka masala. Yes. Google it and you'll find that I'm not making it up. Chicken tikka masala happens to be the national dish of Britain. In fact, I've been told that it is a British invention. If you go to India and you ask for chicken tikka masala, they'll probably say, you what? They haven't heard of it. But that's another discussion. Chicken tikka masala has become the nation's favorite dish. And why not? Why not? It's a delicious dish. It's tasty. And white English palates have enjoyed it. White British palates enjoy it. It's nice, spicy, and it's a bestseller. If you come to our house, my boys don't like their curries. Rice and curry and all that. Mom, not again. They will eat it, they have to eat it. What's on the table, they must eat and thank God for it and be grateful. Because others in many parts of the world don't even have that much. But the day we cook fish and chips, everybody's happy. You said that, yes. Everybody's happy, myself included. But what do? So when I batter the fish, I sprinkle chili powder into the batter. And after we fried the chips, I mean, eating a potato in that way is already a very interesting way of eating the potato. But what we do is, after we fried it, we sprinkle chili powder on the chips. Because our palates are accustomed to spicy foods. We like our food spicy. So what we've done is we've taken the best of British, we've adopted it and adapted it, and we've ended up with something fantastic. So we as Muslims really should be open to the idea of enriching ourselves by other cultures around us. Let me put it very simply. Anything that is good out there, whether it is done by Muslims or non-Muslims, especially by non-Muslims, whatever is good out there is Islamic. And let us not fall into the danger of rubbishing anything and everything that non-Muslims do. We do it to our loss. We will lose out because there is a lot of good. There are many beautiful things that non-Muslims do which we as Muslims could take on board and learn from. There are many other things that I would have liked to share with you. I've used up more than the time allocated to me, and I do apologize for that. Over to you. Thank you so much for listening to me this far. Your comments, your questions will be most welcome through the chat.
What an inspiring speech. I definitely want to have fish and chips from your
Very welcome.
We will now commence with the question and answer session. And this is a wonderful opportunity where you can actually ask questions about Islam. Don't be shy. So if anybody, also if you want to send your questions through Twitter as well, you can send them at Sari Isoc. We're also taking it here at the iPad here at the front. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. So we've got this gentleman over here.
Thank you, Shaykh Ibrahim, for coming to see us and speaking to us. Appreciate a great deal of what you said. In the second half of your lecture, you mentioned upon Muhammad and the Prophet of Islam and his example as being like the yardstick for mankind. I think not quoting you there, and the perfect example. In fact, I'm quoting you saying. Now, I'm conscious I need to be careful how I phrase this so that I don't cause unnecessary offence. So I know Muslims are sensitive concerning Muhammad. But although Muhammad, there are many things recorded about Muhammad in the Hadith which are exemplary, you brought out some of them. Nevertheless, Muhammad was an ordinary human being like the rest of us and was therefore a sinful person. He was commanded by Allah in the Quran to ask for forgiveness, and in the Hadith it's mentioned that he did ask for and pray for forgiveness many times a day. So we do see that Muhammad is a sinful human being like us, whereas Jesus Christ was acknowledged, he claimed himself and was acknowledged by others to be a sinless person without fault. Yeah, in fact, in the Quran also it's mentioned that Jesus is a pure, holy, a sinless person. Yes. Therefore, why do Muslims regard Muhammad as the perfect example rather than say Jesus, as Jesus would appear to be a much better example?
Thank you for that question. Thank you so much for putting it in the way that you did. Taking care of sensitivities is really appreciated, much appreciated. I'll begin by agreeing with you that Jesus, peace be upon him, was sinless. He was absolutely pure of sin, as the Quran declares, as it declares for all messengers and prophets. In Islam, we believe that messengers and prophets are all without sin. They have been given special protection by God that they do not sin. When we think of Adam, for example, when he and Eve, peace be upon her, ate from the forbidden tree. We do not regard that as a sin, but we would see that as an error of judgment, as a slip-up. So there is tremendous care taken within Islamic teachings with regards to messengers and prophets being free of sin. And therefore we would, following from that, believe that Muhammad, peace be upon him, also was free of sin. Now, so why does the Quran talk about about Muhammad asking for forgiveness, and hadith, which is an authentic hadith, which talks about him seeking forgiveness? This is explained to us in this way, that we as ordinary human beings, we sin, and therefore we ask God's forgiveness. Nothing is dearer to God than a slave when he or she turns to him and asks for forgiveness. In fact, we are told, God says that if there were no sinners left on this planet, he would take us all away and create another group of people who will sin, who would then turn to him so that he may forgive him. The meaning is that he loves to forgive. And we are assured by God that every time we turn to him asking for forgiveness, we are guaranteed that we will be forgiven. When it comes to the likes of Muhammad, peace be upon him, asking God's forgiveness, we believe they are not asking God's forgiveness because they have sinned, but because Muhammad, peace be upon him, felt that at nightfall when he lay down, he would take stock of his day. And he would look at all the things that he had done, all the good things, because we believe he never did anything that was sinful. He would take stock of his day, and at the end of that stock taking, he would feel, oh gosh, I wish I would have done more for my Lord. And because he felt that he had not done enough to please his Lord, he would seek God's forgiveness. So it's not forgiveness asking from sin, but rather, in a way, regretting that I didn't spend my day much more in God's service and the service of humanity as I could have. So the hadith captures the practice of the blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, in which he said, "Inni la astaghfirullah sab'ina marratan." Indeed, I seek God's forgiveness 70 times a day. In one tradition, it says, "Mi'atu marra," 100 times a day. Scholars have explained this in the way that I have shared with you, that the messengers and prophets seek God's forgiveness, not forgiveness from sin, but their regret at not being able to do more to please God. With regards to the example, Muslims are also encouraged to look up to other messengers and prophets as role models. It's not just Muhammad, peace be upon him. We believe all the messengers and prophets were brothers. They have different specialities about them. We do not see them in competition. Clearly one, for us as Muslims, we will see one as the leader, if you like. And it's usually, in most cases, the final person who comes along happens to be the leader, but we see them all as equal. Indeed, the big five, if I can call them that, include Moses and Jesus, Abraham, our common father. I'm also mindful of how Muslims and Christians see Jesus, peace be upon him. For Christians, clearly, he is seen as someone who gave his life for the sins of people. The starting point for Islam is not like that of Christianity, where everyone is born a sinner. It's the other way around. In Islam, everyone is born pure. And upon attaining the age of puberty and maturity, when we are able to distinguish between right and wrong, our good deeds and our wrong deeds begin to be recorded. And the noble scribes, as Muslims, we believe that there's an angel on the right shoulder who records good deeds, an angel on the left
angel on the right shoulder has been instructed to record a good deed as soon as an intention for that good deed has been made. So, for example, if I make an intention that before I go tonight, I will give a £10 donation to the ISOC, that good deed has already been recorded for me. If it so happens that I leave and I forget all about it, and I don't give them the 10, that reward has already been recorded. However, with regards to the angel on the left who records evil things, that angel is under instruction to wait. When the intention is made to commit the evil, it's not yet recorded. When the evil act is committed, it's not recorded. Time is given for that individual to realize that they have wronged. They are given time to make, to repent, and so that is never recorded. If they fail to repent, then that will be recorded. Now, when we talk about forgiveness from God, there's one other misconception that some of us, perhaps even us as Muslims, might have is, in Islam you find there's a lot of point scoring. Like you pray, God gives you this many rewards, you fast, God gives you this many rewards. There's a lot of credits that are accumulated in the hereafter. But salvation is not guaranteed by a mountain full of good deeds, nor by the absence of it. The Blessed Messenger once told his companions that on the Day of Judgment there will be a person who will be brought before God. He'll have a mountain full of good deeds. Despite that, God will say to the angels, take this person and put them in heaven purely out of my grace and my mercy. Now this individual will try to be clever and say, hang on God, I worked really hard for this. I prayed 5 times a day, I fasted, I cared for my neighbors, helped the poor and the needy, etc. So I did these good deeds. Look at this mountain full of good deeds that I have. So I want to go into heaven because I earned it and I deserve it. And God will say, fair enough, if that's how you want to do it, that's how we will do it. And then he will instruct the angels to say, for every blessing we gave to him, can you please charge him for the glass of water and the healthy body and the family and the love that you enjoy with your friends and so on. By the time he's paid for all that, or she's paid for all that, all the good deeds have finished. Now they're stuck. They've got no credits to go to heaven. At that point they will realize that truly we are at God's mercy. God in his merciful way will allow them to go into heaven. In fact, the Messenger Muhammad once said to his companions, none of you shall enter paradise on account of their good deeds. They were perturbed, they were disturbed. They said, not even you, O Messenger of God? And he said, not even I, unless the Lord showers me with his grace and mercy. So, sins are committed by us ordinary folk, and in a way God loves that we turn to him and seek his forgiveness. I would say again here to all the Muslims who are here that we should be inspired by all the messengers and prophets. We should see them as our role models as well. Jesus' teachings are beautiful. Some of those teachings have been slightly modified. So if you look at, for example, Jesus taught that we should turn the other cheek. If somebody does you something wrong, you tolerate that and you don't retaliate. So the Quran has a slightly different take on it. The Quran says that if someone wrongs you, you have a right to justice. But if you forgive, that is nearer to God. So there is a kind of balance being brought into play here. And I've had many exchanges with Christian friends, and we have shared some personal experiences. And they have said that it is very difficult to turn the other cheek because human nature is such. We are a creation where we want justice, and if any wrong has been done to us, we want that to be redressed. It takes a tremendous amount of courage and kind-heartedness to forgive an enemy. That is admirable. Jesus' message is beautiful. And maybe that's what the world needs much more today. So we don't see these messengers and prophets or their teachings in tradition. We take it all on board and we try and practice on it as much as we can, as best as we can. So that's a very long answer to your question, but thank you for asking.
I'll just remind you that you can also vote at the back.
Thank you for a great talk. You spoke about women's rights there. I just want to know what your thoughts are on Saudi Arabia and how they seem to treat citizens as second class, and what justification is there for that.
I usually don't mention specific names and all that, but since you have asked about Saudi Arabia itself, I think their treatment of women, in the way that it is reported, I do not have first-hand knowledge, but in the way that it is reported, I believe is wrong. This is not the way to treat women. These are mothers and wives and daughters of Saudi society. They should be respected. And it all depends on which angle we're taking with regards to women's rights. With regards to justification, only they can tell us how they attempt to justify the undignified treatment of women. Having said that, I know very, very few men from Saudi Arabia, and those that I know who have been with their wives, many of them students here in the UK, I have seen them treat their women very, very well. It's very difficult for me sitting here in the UK passing judgment on Saudi society. There might be bad examples there, but I also hope that there must be many more good examples. Sadly, it's always the case where poor practice is always reported and good practice is hardly ever reported. If we truly understand the spirit of Islam and its teachings with regards to the woman, no Muslim man would even dream of treating a woman badly. The blessed Messenger Muhammad, peace be on him, told us, paradise lies at the feet of our mothers. It is women who brought us into this world. Everything that we are, all that we are, is because of a woman. I think I should stop there, and I hope that has answered your question.
Thank you for your time and your effort in coming here. It's quite clear that Islam is under a propaganda onslaught in the media. What do you suggest would be some of the means available to us to counter this propaganda battle?
You've asked a very difficult question. It's a very difficult question because some of us as Muslims are fueling and feeding that media frenzy that seeks to portray us negatively. Many times we give it to them on a plate and they say, yes, we got them. And they plaster it all over the headlines, all over the front pages. So we have to start working on our fellow brothers, Muslims, and help them to see the damage that they cause to this beautiful way of life by their action. If we deprive a fire of oxygen, hopefully the fire will die out. Secondly, we should not let any misrepresentation of Islam and Muslims go unchallenged. I know we're all very busy people, especially students, lecturers, very, very busy people. If we can try and find time or organize a group to write collectively to the editor to say, we do not like this, we do not agree with this, this is a misrepresentation of our faith. I think that would help the publishers, the editors, take more care. For me, the most powerful thing we can do as Muslims to counter what the media portray is through our treatment of our neighbors. We all live close to neighbors, maybe next door, maybe a few doors away. Maybe we might be the only Muslim family in a whole street. If we can demonstrate that we are peaceful, law-abiding, caring people, then no matter what they see on the screens of the televisions or on the front pages, they will question that and they will say, actually, Ibrahim next door is a lovely guy. So we have to create a climate and an environment where people are forced to challenge that. When it snowed not very long ago, it was a Sunday morning, I spent an hour and a half with my two little ones, clearing the snow from neighbors on either side of our house, about 5 houses in total. I'm sure the neighbors appreciate that. I'm sure next time they see the television screen showing some angry Muslims saying some nasty things, they will stop and think, actually, our neighbor is also Muslim, but he's not like that. When it snowed last time, he cleaned the snow even without us asking him to do so. It's these little acts of kindness, which are so easy to do, which we have to do more and more. Not just so that we are seen in good light, but genuinely because we have a real care for fellow human beings. Ikhlas, sincerity, it has to be at the core of everything that we do. But the added benefit of that is we are helping people to see the real Islam, the lived Islam. When I've been asked this question by non-Muslims, I've said to them, go and look for a Muslim and become friends with a Muslim and you will see what Islam is all about. But we ourselves have to learn Islam, understand it in the way that it is to be understood as a religion of compassion, of friendship and of care. With God's help and with God's will, we can fight this attack on Islam through the media. It's very painful, but sometimes we give it more fuel. And I'll give you one example. When we saw the issue of the Danish cartoons, extremely painful for Muslims. We love Muhammad, peace be on him, more than our own parents. It's very painful for us to see that. But the way some Muslims reacted by rioting, torching cars and burning flags and burning embassies, is that Islam? Is that how Muslims should behave? I'm sure there's a better, more dignified way of registering our hurt and our pain. I think if just a handful of us in every city would have gathered in the city center for an hour, maybe holding a candle and one single placard that said, we love Muhammad, peace be on him, and say no more, I think that would have been a much more powerful, symbolic demonstration of our hurt, which would have attracted a lot more compassion in turn for us, rather than the screaming and shouting and all that. Yes, maybe the media would never have covered a peaceful group of Muslims assembling in the city center, but it's not just about the media. There will be people passing around there. We can use social media now to tell our story. We've got all the other ways in which we can tell these stories, and we should tell these stories so people can see that there is another side, an authentic side to Islam and Muslims. I have some doctor friends, and they have an incredible experience. Some of these doctors are put it the other way around. Some of the racist people who peddle hatred for Islam and Muslims end up on an operating table, and they are operated by a Muslim. And especially those who look traditional like myself. It's quite a shock for these individuals. They see a caring Muslim doctor who will do everything to save their life. So we can do this in every walk of life. We can be good examples, good role models, good ambassadors for Islam. If some of you have not yet decided, maybe you have younger people that you know, encourage them to do media studies, to take up journalism, so that we have people there in the mainstream media outlets who can work with their colleagues, so that when there is an unfair portrayal of Islam and Muslims, or of any community, we can serve as checks and balances to ensure that a fair portrayal is given of Islam and of Muslims.
We're going to take the last few now. So if you really want to ask, we've got one at the back there. And again, you know, if you want to put it through the Twitter as well, sisters as well. If there's any ladies here that would like to ask a question, please do. You can, don't be shy. We'll have the proper.
Thank you very much for your speech. And basically, what I was going to talk about, it's not a question more than a reply to the brother who just pointed out something about Saudi. And basically, what I was going to say about his question, so the way he asked his question shows his lack of knowledge about Saudi first. Secondly, what I was going to mention as well, and a country like Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure where they got one of the pillars, I'm pretty sure that they do care about the right of women more than we do. Just to point it in view, and as I said, I'll mention it again. Like the way he asked the question shows his lack of knowledge, and his question was basically why women are not allowed to drive in Saudi, not why women don't have their rights. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for this speech. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is such a challenge to ask you to talk about what does it mean to be a Muslim in like one session. But mashallah, you did this really nicely, highlighting the 5 aspects of being a Muslim. And my question relates specifically to your speech. I quite liked how you highlighted the 5 aspects of being a Muslim as 20% each. So my question relates to this. You said that maybe about 60% of being a Muslim relates to transactions, relationships, and ethics. And I believe this also relates to how to be a good human in general. And my question is, well, if you are you're having a good relationship with other people and you are fair and honest in your transactions and you have ethics, and all our non-Muslim friends are like this, what is the importance of having all of this under the overarching principle of being a Muslim, of La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah? Jazakallah khair.
Shukran, thank you so much for your kind words, and Allah bless you. And bless all of you and reward you for taking time out to come and listen to me. I only share with you what my teachers have taught me, what I've learned from them through God's help. I believe, as my teachers have taught me, that if you want to be a good Muslim, first you have to be a good human being. That's absolutely critical. We cannot be good Muslims until we become good human beings. Our hope is that if that 60% helps us to become good human beings, then we can add that 40% to it to become good human beings and good Muslims. That 60% is not something that only Muslims do. You are totally right. There are Christians, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, people of no religion also. They also do a lot of that 60%. Sometimes a lot more than we Muslims do. And I find, and I've said this many times, that sometimes I find more Islam in some non-Muslims than in some Muslims. However, when we do all these things which are universal human values, which should come to us naturally, we also have another dimension. That as believers, people who have declared faith in God, we do this in order to please our Creator, to please our Lord, that He has given us all these faculties and we put them to good use. And by doing so, we express thankfulness and gratefulness for these gifts. The Quran tells us that if we were to count God's blessings, we cannot count them. And God tells us in the Quran that the blessings that I have given to you, if you are thankful for them, then I shall give you more. However, if you are ungrateful, then I will deprive you of those blessings. The punishment would be deprivation of those blessings. So I can see a direct relationship between that 60%, which helps us to access more and more love from God, grace from God, and blessings from God. With regards to the non-Muslim people who do that 60%, even that does not go unrewarded by God. As Muslims, we believe that they also receive the reward for that 60% in this worldly life. If we look around us, we find that large numbers, significant numbers of non-believers who even reject God and the idea of God, they live very good lives. They enjoy all the blessings. On the other hand, people who believe, they are believers, yet they do not have the material blessings that the non-believers have. So we find in this scenario that good action will always attract God's attention and God's mercy, even if it is carried out by non-Muslims. I'll stop.
We'll take the very last question now.
Can we give a chance to him since you already asked?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for a beautiful speech and the lessons that you've given. Particularly the aspect that I think we all benefit a lot is the way you portrayed some of your anecdotes from your personal life and showed how, as a British Muslim, you lived and have the interaction of good things that you earn from this society, you integrated into your life. And I would ask that question about that. Alhamdulillah, I feel blessed to be part, as a Muslim, to be part of Great Britain, and there is a lot to earn out of this country. I completely agree with you. But fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't have the upbringing like the way you had in this country. It seems like you came here quite early in your age, and your spouse, mashallah, has been born and bred here. So the situation is slightly different compared to many of the postgraduate students we have at the University of Surrey. So I think what I'm trying to ask is, as postgraduate students, when we enter this country for the first time, we come with our religion, we come with our culture, and sometimes we do not understand where it is culture and where it is Islam. The boundary is very vague, which you highlighted as well. And of course, then we come here and we come here with the preconception of Great Britain. Some of these preconceptions are heavily tainted by the historical background of Great Britain, which is not great, which we know as well. So when we enter into a stage of confusion, which prohibits us from what you ask us to do today, which is basically get the best of all, because anything that is best in every culture is Islamic. So from this confusion, at least my perspective, when I came here to this country as a postgraduate student, I almost felt like the confusion I had, and I would not be shameful to say that, when I entered my puberty. It's almost felt like that strong when I came to this country, about the culture, religion, and what is good in Great Britain, and how to integrate that all together. So I would really appreciate if you shed some light on that how you minimize this confusion and get the best out of our Islam, our own culture, and the culture we now have embraced as part of being a student in this country.
Thank you. You've been very kind. I've been blessed, I guess, is the word I'm thinking of, by God and by the hard work of my parents and my teachers. I'm not perfect at all. Please don't see me in long robes and turbans and big beard to think that I am an angel. Not at all. Far from it. I have many, many faults, and I pray God keeps my faults hidden from you, so that you continue to think of me the way you have portrayed me to be. I'm delighted that, if I can use that word, as a foreigner, you have shown an appreciation for British culture and British values. We have an ongoing debate in our country about what it is to be British and what are British cultures, British norms, and so forth. Britain is now a multicultural society, it is great now, I believe, because of the presence of all these wonderful cultures that make Britain such a vibrant society. I think it would be wrong to hold the past against the British people. I'm not saying we forget the past. History is there, recorded, to remind us, so that we can learn from those lessons that history teaches us, some very painful lessons. I think there is a need for us to divorce the current British generations from the generations of the colonizing British people. Otherwise we cannot move forward. I think we as Muslims would want the same for us. Muslims have done horrible things to others also in history. We're not proud of it, we're deeply ashamed of it. But if people were to hold that all the time against us, we would struggle to make new friendships. So history has its place, but we should not allow it to hold us back. If anything, it should propel us to more positive encounters, having learned from those painful lessons. Islam has two dimensions. One is things that are absolutely black and white, and then we've got the grey areas. And by that I refer to halal and haram, permissible and prohibited. What is prohibited, there is no room for any compromise on that, regardless of which country you go to and how much that culture is championed. We as Muslims cannot do that. I cannot go to the pub and drink. I'll only go as far as Islam allows me to go. But there are many I've been to many other countries where I have picked up something and I've enriched my own culture. I was born in Africa. How are we for time, Chair? I was born in Africa to Indian parents who were immigrants. When I was growing up, in those days in Africa, Asians and whites were pooled together as white compared to black Africans. At the age of 18, up to my A levels, I came to England. Suddenly, from being from being white, I was now black. Because in England in those days, Asians and blacks were pooled together as black compared to white communities. And it has been a journey. And as the years went by, I began to realize actually I am British. This is home now. This is where I'm raising my family. This is where I live. And I was happy to feel and regard myself as British. People around me also began to make me feel that we are part and parcel of Great Britain. I still had issues with being English because in my mind I related being English to ethnicity, where you had to be fair-skinned, light-haired, light eyes. But things have moved on. Englishness is no longer limited to ethnicity. And I've seen it with our national football team. How English fans, myself included, we cheer white players and black players as passionately as the other. If only we would see them in the same light on the streets as in which you see the black person on the streets. We see them as English as we see them on the football pitch. It's not easy to integrate oneself. I'm not in favor of assimilation, not at all. I don't believe we should require anyone to assimilate, which means they would lose their multiple identities and become something that they are not. No. Certainly, and also I'm against segregation. As I made references from the Quran, Islam wants us to be part of society. So my journey of integrating myself has not been an easy one, and I'm sure the same story can be told by people who are not white, for example. Perhaps even for Eastern European white people who have been recent neighbors of ours in this country may share some of these experiences. But we have to try. And in this effort, we need the help of the majority communities. We can only kick down so many doors. The rest of the doors have to be open for us. It's a two-way process. White British people have embraced chicken tikka masala. Non-white British people have embraced fish and chips. Again, a simple example. But until and unless the white British people don't see me as British, I could stand on top of a tower and shout to say, I'm British, I'm English, till I'm blue in the face. It won't work until they see me as such. So there are huge challenges, but that should not deter us. I once attended a conference in North Italy on integration and cohesion, and they asked me to say a few words. I boarded a flight from East Midlands Airport, early morning flight, and we were all EU nationals on that flight. Many were Italians going back home, many British going for work, and people like me going to the conference. When we got into the immigration lounge, there was one custom official, immigration officer, sitting behind a glass window, and the whole long queue formed. And I realized people in front of me had the photo page of the passport open, and all they were doing was filing past his window with that photo page open And he was looking at it and just nodding, and people were just going by. So I'm in the queue now, thinking, I am European, I have an EU passport, a UK passport, I'm British, I'm English, and I will do the same. So I come to the window. You know what happened afterwards, don't you? So, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Thankfully, we have many friends. We have many friends. And I feel I need to say this, especially Christian friends, who are working very hard to enable Muslims to be embraced as part and parcel of the fabric of this society. Many Jewish people who are working very hard because they have gone through this journey themselves. And there are many people of no religion, people who don't have any religion, who are also working very hard to help Muslims in particular feel at home and become integrated. And I can share you stories about some really inspiring stories of one white English Christian woman. She has been caring for refugee women in her home. And most of these are Muslim refugee women, asylum seekers, in her home. One after another. If one leaves, within days she's got another one that she's looking after. And the care she gives, she ensures that halal food is brought into the house so that the Muslim woman, her religious beliefs are respected. 5 times prayer in the house, a room has been set aside for that. Alarm clock and everything is set so that she can wake up and do her prayers and all that. This is amazing. There are some beautiful people out there. So just as we do not wish Islam as a whole and Muslims as a whole to be negatively portrayed because of the actions of a few, likewise, we should not do that to other communities. A vast majority of human beings are wonderful people. They are good human beings. A handful do something wrong, it's wrong to blame the whole group. I'm just trying to remember one other aspect of your question. Striking a balance between, or getting it right, culture and religion, so as not to confuse one with the other. Because we say Islam is a natural way of life, we find that a lot of the things, common things that human beings do, automatically fit well with the teachings of Islam. It's other things that are detrimental for the well-being of the human being you find automatically you tend to reject. Now there is this perception on the part of people who come from outside to our country, whether they are students or tourists, they have this picture of Britain as being a decadent, promiscuous, beer drinking, binge drinking country and society. It's very unfair. It's not true. That's not Britain. Some pockets of our communities behave like that. It's not a hedonistic society. Some members of our society are like that, but most people are not. And so we must begin to challenge those notions as well. Just as if I hear something about a direct question about Saudi Arabia, I cannot be judging the entire society. And there's been an attempt to clarify what it's like, but we should try not to tar an entire nation by the actions of a handful. I think Britain is a wonderful place. I do not wish to live anywhere else. My heart is set in Britain, To be honest with you, I hope I don't cause offense to anyone who comes from a predominantly Muslim country. I do not even want to live in a majority Muslim country. I'm very happy here, I'm very comfortable here. There are challenges, but I feel that for me and for my practice of Islam, Britain is great. We have freedoms, we have laws that protect our freedoms, and we're allowed to do things which no other European country allows. And we just have to look across the channel. France, which champions laicite and egalitaire, secularism and equality and brotherhood and all that, you see, life for Muslims is very difficult. You look in the Netherlands, you look in Germany, you look in Turkey even. So I thank God really that He has enabled me to make Britain my home. Now it's my duty to make Britain even better. It's good, but if I can make it better, then I should make it better. Because I should wish for my fellow Britons what I wish for myself. And so it's my religious duty to work hard so that this society is prosperous, is peaceful. And in that process, if they find Islam, then that's a bonus. That will be the icing on the cake. I'll stop there.
I also just wanted to add, if I may, that tonight that we've spoken obviously that Islam allows people to embrace other cultures and whatnot. But since it's on misconceptions as well, I just wanted to point out that I'm actually British too. And my parents are British. I'm actually of Cypriot origin. And even this that I'm wearing tonight, it's the first time I've ever actually worn one in my life. I usually just wear jeans and whatnot. So although we say that we should embrace other cultures, and we've particularly spoken about Muslim majority countries embracing British culture, I think even us British Muslims should also attempt to embrace other cultures as well, and that's what I try to do too. So I just thought I'd add that too. I'm not really a fan of spicy food and biryani and things like that, but I still class myself as a Muslim. So
come down for fish and chips.
Yeah, I'd love to try it though. But it's been an amazing evening, and I want to thank everyone in the audience for your time and your patience and for all your questions. But I really want to give another really warm round of applause to our Muslim chaplain, Dr. Osama Khan, to please pass a special gift that we have for Shaykh Ibrahim.
But you're spoiling me now. But this can be a peace offering for my wife. What time do you call this? She's going to say when I get home.
Thank you very much.
Just as a reminder, this is part of our invitation to Think Week, which we've set out to help promote Islam, especially here in Guildford. Tomorrow we're having lunchtime workshops throughout the week, and we're also inviting everybody to attend our Friday prayer. And we're also having evening talks on sociology, science, economics, and many of the things that we've heard here tonight, including the routine. So we really hope that you do take this opportunity to engage with many Muslims from all different backgrounds. And I just want to say thank you again for all the time and information. Thank you.